That is not surprising to anybody who's been paying attention. This whole thing seems to be a big money grab, and we should really rethink all of the funding and the Indian Act and all of that stuff, because I think it's doing more harm than good, and we should probably try and have a unified country that's all pulling one way in together, because that's a lot better than a whole bunch of people pulling in all sorts of different directions, going off in their own direction, right? But again, Alberta said, we're done. And I fully support them in that. And I think Ontario should do it too. Holy smokeronies. Former Prince Andrew arrested. So the Epstein arrests tick up to one. We've got one. So, hey, maybe more will follow. Maybe not. I'm still not convinced that there's going to be justice served, despite some of the things and the pictures coming out. I didn't know there were pictures coming out in the Epstein files that are pretty crazy, absolutely crazy. And the descriptions of the pictures even more crazy. So if they throw the book at him, I hope so, but I'm worried that they're not going to. So fingers crossed. Floor crossing makes Edmonton constituents angry. So yesterday it was announced that the person who is rumored to be crossing the floor to the Liberals has indeed crossed the floor to the Liberals. Mike Genereux, I think his name. And people are upset because he actually moved away from Edmonton after he won the seat, but he's been voted in there a bunch of times. And it seems to me there are spies in the Conservative Party, maybe sleeper cells waiting to be activated and turned over to the Liberal Party just in case they need it. And it seems disingenuous. I don't like that part of our system. The more our system rambles on in this completely dysfunctional way, the less I have faith in it. And so I feel like, man, you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and all that, but the system is corrupt and it doesn't work for us. It's not fit for purpose. It doesn't work for the citizens. It works for an elite at the top who can change the laws at will to suit their corruption. And that's not going to work for me. And so we need to figure this out, in my opinion. So floor crossing is a big issue. Canada opens up military recruitment to military from other countries. And China is ready. They're so ready for this. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it first. Honestly, genuinely, lots of people are pushing back on this, but I don't think Canada's going to change track. When people push back, nothing happens. They go, oh yeah, we know you're pushing back. And then they continue doing the crazy things that they've done. There hasn't been any kind of stop to anything. Did anybody get held accountable for all the fraud in Minnesota? Like, is Tim Walz arrested that I missed? Nobody, nothing for nobody. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So you catch them red-handed. You're like, look at all this fraud. And then nothing happens. And so it's kind of frustrating. So Canadian military want to recruit professional military from other countries. And it's weird how she says this, because I think she can understand how batshit friggin' crazy this sounds. Here we go.
And finally, we are creating a new category for skilled military recruits to attract highly skilled foreign military applicants. Eligible recruits with a job offer from the Canadian Armed Forces, including doctors, nurses, pilots, can be invited to apply for permanent residence. They will be subject to the same security and all military requirements. This new category will support our government's commitment to strengthen our armed forces, to defend our sovereignty, and to keep Canadians safe. This category and other priority categories supports Canada's defense industrial strategy, which Prime Minister Carney announced yesterday, by adding a range of workers critical to support our sovereignty and security.
All of these foreign military trained people, they're who we need to protect Canada, guys. And so, like, if I say I am friends or am work for a 3-letter agency in China, let's just say China, because it seems like China is part and parcel of this whole idea. They really want to, come to Canada and take it over, right? It seems. And so if you are working for a 3-letter agency, or a guy in the Chinese government who wants to give you a false identity, and the false identity is such that you could enter the military in another country without them knowing about your history as a 3-letter agent, why wouldn't they do that? Where's the downside for them? And just like the Liberals have done to the Conservative Party of Canada, having sleeper agents who have an unblemished 20-year record who suddenly turns, people say, I was shocked Shocked, I had no idea, right? Didn't that happen in the Winnipeg lab as well? But again, COVID was the flu. Go look at the flu numbers. It was the flu. They just used inflated fake tests to create a panic and then rode that panic to COVID millions. Unfortunately, Wall Street Mav says in response to this, Canadians won't fight for their country. Well, hold on a second there, Wall Street Mav. Our country has been taken over by communists. And will we fight for them? No. I won't fight for the communists. It's not going to happen. And unfortunately, fighting for your country in Canada may get you treated like the Coots for, or like any of the other people who've been persecuted because they stood up to the government, or Justin Trudeau. So now, so Canadians won't fight for their country because the country's betrayed us. So now Canada will invite soldiers from the Chinese military to join. I can just imagine that the Chinese military will send people with fake names and backgrounds to infiltrate the Canadian military and NATO, because Canada is a trusted partner, Five Eyes member, all sorts of other things. And this is a really, really great way for China to gain access, right? Oh yeah, we're definitely, oh Canada, in all of us command, right? Like those good citizens, those good liberals will walk in and take everything they want, right? And who's going to stop them? Because our government sure as hell isn't. The real Mr. Bench says the Carney Liberal government are actively recruiting foreign military trained personnel to join the Canadian Armed Forces, the CAF. Yes, you should be concerned. Yes, yep. Wiretap Media says Immigration Canada is introducing a new express entry pathway for highly trained foreign military personnel. Oh, so our government is going to give people who don't want to assimilate into Canadian culture high-powered weapons. Wonderful. So when I was talking about the Chinese military trucks rolling into your neighborhood, I forgot to mention they were going to be Canadian military, but it's, a kind of hybrid of the Canadian Chinese military. I wasn't aware at the time. So apologies for misinforming you. John says Carney's plan to infuse the Chinese military into the Canadian military should be classed as the biggest military blunder the world has ever seen. X marks the spot. Yep. We'll see how this goes. Here is Fox News, and they're lambasting Carney and just kind of laughing at the stupidity that, or overconfidence in Carney trying to tank U.S.-Canada relations. These guys kind of say, wow, I wonder how that's going to work out for them. 75% of their trade comes to the United States. So like, what do they think is going to happen here? Let's watch, Cotton. It's gonna be good. So they're laughing. It's 2.5 minutes, so it's a little bit long, but here we go.
Prime Minister Mark Carney thinks he scored some big victory now that China is allowing Canadian citizens to travel there visa-free. Fabulous. Christmas in China, a break in Beijing, little R&R with the CCP. Oh, this is ludicrous. So Carney would rather make a big statement, turn his back on the United States, the country's largest trading partner, closest ally, to kowtow to the commies?
Canada was amongst the first to hear the wake-up call, leading us to fundamentally shift our strategic posture.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world.
Happened here, so I had to reconnect. So I'm glad I was using a video. Anyway, here is Mark Genereux, who just crossed.
Due to family reasons, but quite simply couldn't sit on the sidelines after seeing what the Prime Minister was, ambitious agenda he was undertaking across the country and across the world. And quite honestly, it was the speech in Davos where you took everything head on, and I think for me that's where a lot of the world changed. I think it opened a lot of eyes for Canadians, Albertans, Edmontonians, just how serious this now. Remember?
Nope. I am not buying it. Not even a little tiny little bit. Here is, he's the floor crosser is claiming, oh yeah, that Davos speech really opened my eyes, and everybody else said, really? You middle powers are going to gang up on the United States? Good luck. Good luck, guys. Sam Cooper says, floor-crossing MP Michael Ma was director of group explicitly named as United Front Organization and landmark Jamestown Foundation study. So Sam Cooper was putting this out yesterday as a floor crosser day special because Michael Ma crossed the floor recently, but it's not the same floor crosser. Here is a throwback video, and Mark Nixon says, Matt Genereux, 10 years as a Conservative MP, elected 4 times as a conservative, built his brand attacking liberal crime policy. Today, he crossed the floor to the liberals, the same liberals he blamed for record crime in 2023. Values gone. Yeah, that's true. I think true. Holly Doan says, Dear Canadian press, thank you for this history, but you didn't tell readers that floor crossers are rarely re-elected. Did you not know, or did you omit? Thank you, P. Forma, for your research here. CTV News is reporting more than 300 MPs have crossed the floor in Parliament since Confederation. 300 MPs, but they don't get reelected. So I wonder what influenced Matt Genereux really. CTV News was reporting PM Carney says Conservative MP Genereux crossing the floor to the Liberals. So there you go there. And Wealth Moose says MPs switching parties then blocking constituents as Matt Genereux has protected his tweets so people can't go engage with him and tell him that they don't like what he's done. And so there's no public record of people pushing back. Right? Then blocking constituents on social media is now fueling even more frustration among voters. Many Canadians are asking, should elected officials shut out voters right after making such a major political move? And these are communists, and they're operating like communists. Holly Doan says our Canadian political parties are telling us that it doesn't matter who you vote for. Candidates will do what they want. When someone tells you who they are, believe them. So shouldn't re-elect these people because they're liars. And Matt Genereux does not seem to have a good character despite being re-elected a bunch of times. Aaron Gunn says, I'm pretty sure Matt Genereux, who lied and misled his constituents during the last election, hasn't shown up for work one time since November and hasn't even bothered to cast a vote. At the very least, he should reimburse taxpayers the $50,000 he's taken without doing any work. So, yep, very interesting details. And we get stuck with the bill, everyone, and that's not great. Mark Nixon says CBC spreading fake news. Canadians never asked for this floor crosser. This riding has always been conservative historically. CBC should be covering what is being offered to these MPs crossing the floor. Disgusting. So they're coming on here and talking about how this is a legitimate thing because, you know, people are warming to Carney. And I don't want to play this stuff because it's just nonsense. But here's Rosemary Barton partaking in the same kind of thing. Ryan says, Barton now claiming that some people in Alberta are warming up to Carney, so that makes the wild speculation that Genereux might have noticed that within his riding and decided to cross the floor. CBC is out of control. So here's Rosemary running cover for a floor crosser who the riding has never gone liberal. Never. In the whole history of the riding, never, ever gone liberal. Not once. Never. So the person who crossed the floor is ignoring what his constituents want. So what have they got on him? Who knows? Here's these two making up wild stories.
And another election rolls around. You know, floor crossers don't always do that well when the time comes to be elected again. But there's also, you know, the reality that some people in Alberta are kind of warming up to the Prime Minister because he has taken markedly different positions on issues that matter to them, whether it be energy development or climate change measures that he's backed off on. So maybe Mr. Genereux feels like his riding is starting to move in that direction as well.
Just making shit up. And we pay for it. We pay for her to sit there and make stuff up and run cover for these politicians who are lying liars. Jasmine Lane says, and I disagree with this position. She's trying to hector people into being engaged and supporting a party that's going to, quote, do something about this. But they're not. The Conservative Party's not going to do anything about any of this. Not at all. And so I don't even think they can. There's no plan, as far as I can tell. Jasmine says, I've been thinking a lot about these comments. I've lost hope. My vote doesn't matter. What's the point? I almost wonder, what if that's exactly the outcome certain people are banking on? Because here's the pattern I've noticed. Conservative voters are often the first to feel betrayed, the first to feel disillusioned, the first to say, forget it. That's because they're in touch with reality and they realize the whole game is rigged. Not because they don't care, but because they care so deeply and feel betrayed. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Disengagement doesn't punish politicians. It actually protects them. If everybody walked away from the Conservative Party and stopped giving them money, maybe a party would rise that could actually talk about the things people are interested in hearing about and address the issues like Restore Britain, right? But in Canada, we're super censored. You can't even have a political party rise in Canada because the polls are all rigged. And they say that's part and parcel of the game. Well, I don't think so. Apathy is easier to manage, back to this, than opposition. Cynicism is easier to control than participation. If you can convince people the system is broken beyond repair, they'll remove themselves from it voluntarily. If you remove yourself from a broken system and then build a system that's not broken. I think that's better than existing in the broken system forever because you don't want to rock the boat too much. Like, you should stop supporting these fake conservatives who give up ground on gender ideology, give up ground on soji in schools, give up ground on to everything that the liberals want. It's insane. Conserve what exactly, right? And so give up ground and pander to every foreign ethnic group that comes around, especially Indian ones currently, but they're open to pandering to anybody. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Instead of having policies that are just popular with all Canadians, they pander, and it's just disgusting, right? They'll remove themselves voluntarily. Yep, totally removed voluntarily because the system is bullshit and it's rigged and it's broken. And people say, oh, you just haven't tried hard enough. I don't think so. Back to this. Once that happens, once people remove themselves voluntarily, the only voices left are the ones who never intended to leave. Yeah, a corrupt system is just a big echo chamber. You don't restore a country by walking away from it. You don't fix institutions by surrendering them. Alberta, could you weigh in on this, saving a country, restoring a country by walking away from it? I feel like the restoration of Alberta, it's going to be a shining beacon on the hill. You fix it by a shining flat beacon on a plane, on a flat plane, right? You fix it by staying disciplined, by staying involved and refusing to let discouragement turn into withdrawal. Frustration is understandable, but giving up, well, that's a gift to the very people you're upset with. If anything, the movement you feel like your vote doesn't matter is the moment it probably matters most. Nope, the elections are rigged. And mathematically, Alberta can't do a damn thing about federal votes that don't go their way because mathematically, the election is decided by the time Ontario is done voting. And it doesn't matter if Alberta goes 100% conservative. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter one little tiny bit. So what's the point? Right? Good question. Great question. What's the point? It's rigged. It's a stacked rigged game, and they've rigged it for years. And Alberta's tried, genuinely. I've seen them try to get a fair shake, to just get a mention from Justin Trudeau, to have not have to give all of their money to Quebec, and nothing. Like, they don't get any. All they get is treated more poorly by the Laurentian Ottawa elites. And why? What's the point? Why stay? It's like having a girlfriend who really genuinely treats you like she dislikes you, but she really wants to spend time with you. It's like, why? You obviously don't like me. You don't like how I spend my time. You don't want to be around when I spend my time the way I want to spend my time. You don't like me. So kindly F off. But they're like, no, we have to spend more time together. And they want to just control you. And it's crazy. Get out and give me your key. No Limit says, let's talk about free speech. I've got to say goodbye to the stream. If you want the